Welcome to the Women Living Well After 50 podcast. I'm Sue Carrick and I'm passionate about inspiring, motivating, supporting and informing women over 50 to embrace this exciting time of life. Health and wellness in mind, body and spirit are the foundations for living well, but there is so much more to a life well lived. Each week, through conversations with my guests, I'll be presenting topics that will help us all to live well and enjoy life. So join me as we discover new ways to become women living well after 50. Are you ready to start living? What are you waiting for? Let's get started. Welcome to another episode of the Women Living Well After 50 podcast. I'm Sue Carrick and it's lovely to have you join me. Now, are you feeling a little bit out of balance? Life is just not going where you want to be. You're trying to be dragged in all these different directions and you're just not enjoying life or enjoying who you are. My guest today, Danielle Colley, life coach, speaker, event facilitator and author of The Chocolate Bar Life, has learnt the hard way. After being fired as a journalist at the Australian Women's Weekly, the solo mum was propelled beyond stress and straight to burnout. She was addicted to stress and self-soothing with whatever she could, but she realised at the heart of it was the ingrained conditioning that success proved you were a worthy human and should be attained at all costs. But a chance comment about making life more like a Mars bar changed how Danielle saw life forever. Deciding life should not feel like a constant uphill marathon, Danielle's new mission centered around creating an ambitious life that still felt good to live. Now, I've read the book. I love the book and I found it was humorous and yet real, with lots of stories and experiences from Danielle, which I could identify with. So let's go and join the conversation and discover how we can make our life the chocolate bar life, creating a delicious balance between work, rest and play. Welcome, Danielle. It's so lovely to have you join me on the Women Living Well After 50 podcast.
Thank you so much, Sue. It's a pleasure to be here.
Now, I've been a little bit excited to have you on because you sent me your book, The Chocolate Bar Life, a couple of months back, and I've read it through, and every time I was reading it, I was thinking, oh my God, where was Danielle when I was way back when? And I loved just the way that the book is humorous and witty, but you also cover all those serious and real issues that we face in life, especially as a woman. So before we get started, I'd love you just to give the listeners a little bit about your background, what you do, and why you came to write The Chocolate Bar Life.
Sure. Thank you. I'm delighted to hear that it has struck all the chords with you. And that you think it's funny, because that's always good. So I am a speaker and a coach and a sort of workshop facilitator and now a published author. I've been working with people in leadership and entrepreneurs, busy people who are pushing themselves to succeed professionally and personally, but often sort of to the point of going past their edges and wondering why their life looks so good on paper. They've got everything that they wanted to achieve, but it doesn't feel the way that they anticipated it would. So I've been working in boardrooms and conference rooms and one-on-one with people to help them to really unravel what drives them, what's going on at that sort of deeper level, to help them to be able to reach their full potential and have a life that feels good to live. I was a journalist, so I was a journalist before that. I was a journalist, so I do have the writing experience, and the freelance journalism also gave me the burnout experience. So yeah, I've got the book knowledge and also the lived experience.
Yeah, and what I loved about your book was you just everything you spoke about, you had lived that experience and you had learnt from that, and you're sharing how we can cope and learn to reassess our lives. And I know you say that you do a lot of engagements with corporate world and boardrooms and that sort of thing. But as I was reading this book, as a woman who's in her mid-60s, it still resonated with me. There were still things that I still grapple with now that I've probably grappled with all my life, but probably with experience and age comes a bit more wisdom and you can cope with things a bit better. Yeah. But I still think, it's not just for people who are out in that business world. This book is for every woman out there.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing that I'm realizing more and more is, like, when we talk about burnout and we see that the stats are 8 out of 10 people are going to have burnout symptoms and stuff like that, we see all of that, we automatically think work, we think career, we think, business is taking too much out of us. But that kind of caring so much for so long and feeling like it's kind of relentless, and nothing you do is going to make any difference anyway, or, and you start to disengage, all of those things, they can happen in relationships, they can happen as a parent, they can happen as a child, as your parents age. So I think that, sometimes we're looking at these ideas of burnout with kind of blinkers on, without realizing at any age, at any stage, any gender, right, any demographic, it's a very much an internal thing. And also, when you said that there are a lot of things that you still grapple with, or they still resonate with you, even though you're a more mature woman now. I think that because a lot of those things are so rooted in our childhood, they're with us, they're part of us. So it's not about healing these things. It's about, as you say, starting to recognize these behaviors, starting to realize that maybe in the big picture, it doesn't help you, it doesn't serve you, or maybe it doesn't matter as much as you thought it once did. And so having that awareness enables you to make sort of different choices around those big feelings that come up.
Actually, I like that point that you just made about the fact that, okay, we all know things, or it's sort of, many people talk about the fact that things can stem from our childhood, and, we carry these stories through our life. But what I liked with you is that you're more or less saying, well, that's part of who we are. And it's not, some people will say, oh, you let that go, you move away. But sometimes it's very difficult when it's been so ingrained in you to actually let it go. I think the key is probably what you're doing, is to say, well, you've got it, that's part of you, but you can understand it, you can sort of overcome those feelings, rather than just completely ignoring them or saying, well, I've got to push them away and not think about them.
Yeah, I think, it's like tattoos or scars. It's a time in your life. It's a part of you, and you don't have to display it all the time. You don't have to have shame around it either. It's like, it's a thing. It's part of my fabric that makes up my history, and all of those things make you the person that you are today. So how you perceive them is really important. Particularly if we're looking at big hurts or traumas and things like that. How you perceive them now, what story do you hold on to, is really important, I think, because you can hold on to the story of it versus just the scar of it. You can stay in the pain of it, rather than letting that scar just be a mark. Does that make sense? I think it does.
Yes,
in my head, it does.
It does. And, as I said, you've lived all these experiences. You're very open about your past and being a single mum, not coping with life, and but having the inner fortitude to say, I just can't do it anymore. Whereas, and recognizing that, and getting the support of your husband and family to be where you are today, which is fabulous. I mean, you had some great experiences. It hasn't all been doom and gloom, but I loved that rawness, that vulnerability that you showed in your writing by putting out, and that's what I don't think many of us want to be. We don't want to show that we're vulnerable, because no, we have to be strong. We have to be, resilient. We have to be able to cope with whatever comes along.
Totally. And look like I've got it together all the time. You can have it together, be okay, and be falling apart and feel like crap too. Like you can, all of those things can be true. I found when I was a journalist, I did lots of different kinds of writing, lots of health and well-being, some relationship stuff, food, whatever I could hustle. But I also did a lot of sort of first person and opinion stuff. And I found that the more real, raw and honest I was, the more people could see themselves in my own stories, and they would say, thank you, thank you. I don't feel alone anymore. Thank you for bringing this issue into the light. And what I wish was, but it sounds like it's landed with you, which is great, is by telling these stories that people can see themselves in, or people can relate to, or people can at least see how human I am, and then going into like the science, the understanding, the wisdom. I think it's easier rather than being sort of preachy, right? It's easier than saying, well, this is what I think, and you should all do this, is to be able to say, hey, I have been in the absolute depths, and this is what I think about that, right?
Yeah,
so I think
and that's why I really enjoyed the book, because you aren't just preaching and saying, well, this is what you've got to do to change. This is how I was, this is what I did to change, and this is where I am now, and to give hope to everyone, because you're in such a good place. But like I remember, I think it was in about chapter 6, and you called it The Fairy Tale of Doing It All. And this is the example you gave was you took you had your pram, and you were sort of going on public transport, and that's what resonated with me, because I thought, I remember that. And you were trying to get it up the stairs because the elevator wasn't working, but you didn't want any help, because you had to think that, and someone offered to help, but you said to him, no, that's fine, because even though it was so hard, you felt you had to, you couldn't ask for help. You couldn't show that you really needed someone to help you along. You had to be the super mum who could do anything and that sort of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. But we all do it. We do it so often. Yeah. Can I help you with that? Do you need anything? What can I do? No, it's fine. I've got it, and we're all so fiercely independent and siloed, and desperately also really wanting community and support. Somewhere along the way, there has become this message, I think, in our society anyway, not all societies, but there's become this message that you keep it together, right? It's your stuff, you deal with it, look like you've got your act together, be stoic, and that sort of hyper independence is lonely. It's lonely, and it's hard, and it's really unnecessary, because people do like to help, and when people offer, they're very, I've never had anyone, offer hollowly, I think that if people are like, well, is there anything I can do to help? Yeah, actually, I would really love if you could drop me around a meal, or it would be amazing if you could take my kids for a couple of hours, or if you could anything, like people like to help. It lights our brains up like a Christmas tree when we have the opportunity to be kind, right? We love it, particularly like it has to be altruistic, right? We can't be expecting something in return. When we offer kindness, our brains light up like Christmas trees. The person receiving the kindness, their brain lights up like a Christmas tree. And I love this. If somebody happens to witness it, their brain lights up like a Christmas tree. Everybody gets all of these happy hormones going on. So why aren't we all just being more kind? Like, why are we all so busy and focused on what we're doing and then rejecting the offer of help? It's crazy.
Do you think it's also sometimes that because we project that image that we can do it all, we can cope with everything, we don't need anyone, that people sometimes balk at asking or offering help because they don't want to be shunned, or they don't want to be put down. And I suppose if you do say, yes, I could do with that help, there is that moment of, oh, that's a shock, because that's
now I have
not
to
the
do it.
person.
Yeah. Nobody ever says yes.
It's not that person. She doesn't usually react that way, so there must be something really wrong. But
Definitely.
I think
it's all this perception stuff, right? It's all this sort of perception and expectation and all of this kind of stuff that we've really built up, rather than us being able to be really heart-led and really authentic and really vulnerable, and allow ourselves out and allow people in,
Yeah, no, I like that bit about being guided by our heart as well. I actually was reading a book yesterday, and it had something similar in it. It was a fiction book, but I thought, yes, we're so much about what our brain is telling us to do, and sometimes it's telling us to do things because we should, or not because we want to, and that can really get that inner conflict going, because your heart doesn't want to do it, but your mind is saying that you have to. And I'm not sure that life should be that way.
Absolutely. Obligation is a really, really heavy thing. I actually had a mentor once who used to say, we should all over ourselves. And I think that's a really great expression, right? We should all over ourselves. I think being able to really check in with boundaries, check in with what's okay with me, what's not okay with me, what do I truly want here? Am I okay to compromise? Because compromise is not a bad thing, sometimes we think with boundaries that it's like, this is the way that it has to be. I set my boundary and that's it, but life is give and take. It's a dance. There's always going to be compromise, and there's always going to be times where you need to push yourself beyond your energy, and it's about knowing that you have that sort of the capacity for give and take. And if you have too much going on in one area, you need to pull back a little bit in other areas, and keep the balance, as like a slack rope walk, rather than like all over the place. It's really micro adjustments all the time.
Yes, we just got to relax a little bit more, I think, and just rather
How do we
than
do that?
having that talk.
How do we do that? This is the thing. We've all got like the fear of other people's opinions. We've got like the fear of of us not being enough and not doing enough. That like there's all of this kind of fear that is wrapped up inside of us, and we're not relaxed at all. We're very tightly wound.
Yes.
And so.
And there's that comparison trap too. It's,
absolutely.
And of course, social media adds into that with our beautiful lives on Instagram and Facebook. And I'm the same. If I'm doing something happy or whatever, I'll post that up to Instagram, and rarely do I put up something where I'm not feeling the best.
I'm having a tough day.
Yeah. But it's sort of that false perception that we build up about everyone else and their lives, and really we're all just trying to get through our own, and everyone has their down times as well as the good times.
Absolutely. Everyone has a lot of external pressure as well, someone's career could be going really well, but you have no idea what's going on with their kids or their family or their parents, or and at times we have these massive moments of squeeze and pressure. And I think that it's even more important than that we can be authentic on social media so people can see that it's not all shiny, but remembering what's really important for us in order to take care of ourselves so that we can take care of others. So this the concept of the book is the chocolate bar life philosophy is all around the balance and how to create the balance in a busy life. So not about shunning the busyness, shunning the ambition, shunning being everything to everyone, because it's just how it is. Like if you're a busy working mom, or even whether you have children or not, there's still people who require energy from you. So it's recognizing that you can do all of that but sort of within this framework that prioritizes the elements that help you to stay well, happy, and balanced. And it's small changes, right? This is the thing, like James Clear says in his book Atomic Habits, like the changes don't all have to be enormous things. It's like it's when all the small changes add up over time, that's when we change the way we're living, change the habits, and start to feel better. So if you're used to running at 1,000,000 miles an hour, making small changes to bring back your time, to own your time and change your, not necessarily your energy output, but to change the stress level of output that goes with that energy. When you make those small changes, then you start to be able to relax, as you said, relax into your life and your the busyness of your life. Like, because I don't want the book to sound like we can't be busy, because life is busy. Like, unless you've really cracked it, life is busy.
Well, unless you just want to withdraw from the world. But the thing to me is that I just want to live well and enjoy life. We're only given this one opportunity.
Yes.
And there is time. And, you know, we're all different. I am a person that, and I'm trying to temper it these days, but I am a person that's the 120% rather than just, you know, I've got to be more than 100% for me to feel like I'm really doing well. And there it comes back to that success. What is success? I mean, someone that has probably conquered the chocolate bar life is successful because they've got that balance in their life. But we sort of look at success in a more material way, don't we? Like the type of job you have, or the money you earn, or the house you live in, or the car you drive. What is success really?
Absolutely. So I like to think of success as having, you know, being comfortable financially, because money, there's no doubt about it. Money gives freedom. Money gives you room to breathe. I grew up with a single mum we were pretty broke when I was growing up. So I've seen, and I was broke when I was a single mum at the beginning, right? So I know how hard that is. So having enough money to like not have to worry about it all the time is great. Status, if that's important to you, like there's nothing wrong with that, but it's not something that's important to me. I think so. Impact is important to me. How I make people feel is important to me. But having time and space to take care of my physical and mental health, that's really important to me. So if I'm kicking all the goals, if I'm absolutely kicking ass, I'm traveling everywhere and I'm speaking on all the biggest stages, but I'm exhausted, I don't have time to see my therapist, I haven't worked out in 2 weeks, I'm not succeeding, right? For me, it's about knowing that these things are paramount. They're imperative for my brain space and for me to feel good within myself. And that has to be the foundation. Time to spend with friends, quality time with the people that you love. If you don't have time for that, what's the point of all the money, right? So it's about recognizing I need to ensure that if I am going for the big goals and I want to have the big ambition and I want to make all the big bucks, then I also have to prioritize myself, my loved ones, my health. And that is when I'm really, really succeeding. I actually had a really interesting conversation with my therapist yesterday. And we were talking about this idea of success, because as you said a minute ago, like always 120% and always the next thing. And we were talking about this idea of success as a destination. And if, like, will you ever, will I ever, will we ever reach a point where we can sit back and be like, I've done the things that I wanted to do, or will there always be the next thing? And is that a problem or not a problem? Like, and it's not a problem, right? It's great to always have the next thing. That's completely fine. What is the energy that is driving you constantly to the next thing? And is it because you feel like you haven't done enough? You feel like you're still trying to prove, you still want people to recognize you, like all of these different things that drive us. to the extra 20% over the 100, or to the next thing. Like, what is that? And none of it is good or bad, right? It is simply a thing. And we need to have the capacity for self-reflection to know what is pushing me, what is driving me, how do I feel about that? Is that healthy? Am I doing the work? Do I have everything else in my life covered, or is it like blinkered? So it's all, I think, the success paradigm and concept is super interesting, and also requires our big thinking, our deep thinking, and our searching to know or understand ourselves, and what pushes us the way that we push ourselves.
And I don't think that we give ourselves enough time to actually self-reflect. We're always doing things for everybody else. And I could be wrong, so forgive me if I am, but I think there was an early text, or I saw something on your Instagram where you actually went away on your own recently, and it could have just been a little bit of time out. And it sort of resonated, because I thought, you've got that determination, I suppose, to make yourself the best person that you can be for yourself and for others. And so you're doing something which a lot of people go, oh, you went away and, the kids stayed with mum or dad or whatever, and you went off on your own. And yet the value of that for when you came back with what you could give to others is priceless, I would think.
Absolutely. So my husband and I have made an agreement that we both go away for 2 weeks a year by ourselves, 2 weeks of the year. So he goes 2 weeks, one chunk. He goes to Japan with his mates, has a crazy time. And then I often take bite-sized chunks. So I went to a retreat in the desert recently. I went on an Indigenous healing retreat in Central Australia, which was profound and amazing. And I knew, because I've got all of these book launches and all of this media and all of this, I had all of this stuff coming up, a very, very busy time. And I wanted to be in my best spiritual, emotional place in order to bring the energy that was going to be required of me. So I needed to go and sort my junk out, because I had some junk thoughts in there, to be able to get out of my own way for this process. So and then at the end of all this, so I've got like a number of big things and travel and stuff coming up for the next 4 weeks. And then I'm thinking I'm going to go away just one night, somewhere an hour and a half drive, somewhere peaceful, and just have some time on my own. We are constantly bombarded, and particularly, people with busy family lives as well, constantly bombarded by people wanting our energy, by input, social media, news, whatever. We're like scrolling while we're like watching, and we've got kids talking, or we've got like emails coming in. There is this constant bombardment, and it is so important to go and unplug just for a minute so you can hear yourself.
That's right. Yeah.
So,
and that sort of is all involved in the concept of self-care and self-love, because, self-care isn't necessarily just having a manicure or a pedicure. I think it's actually become a little bit of a buzzword where people go, oh yeah, that's just self-care. They don't go to the layers that are involved in actually diving deeply into that area and giving yourself that self-love.
Absolutely. In the last couple of days, even, like, somebody sent me a message after coming to my Sydney book launch, and she was like, look, I see how busy you are, and I see that you're talking about the chocolate bar life philosophy, and I'm wondering, like, are you taking care of yourself? You're really busy. And I was so delighted to say, it was like 12:30 in the afternoon. I was like, I'm in my pajamas. I have just had a pajama session with my business coach so that we can celebrate and debrief. And I've got therapy with my therapist shortly. So like the whole day was geared towards replenishing my energy stores after being like so big and present, and once upon a time, I would not have done that, Sue. Once upon a time, my diary would have been jammed the next day, right? Because like I'm busy and I've got so much to do. I don't have the time. I think that is one of the things that busy women especially say, and I say women because I have more experience with women and I am one. Many of my clients are women. I do also work with men and I find the same issues with the men that I work with. But so predominantly the women that I've worked with feel like they don't have time to take time for themselves. And I also feel like it's selfish because I'm so busy all of the time. The time that I'm not working should be spent given to other people, my family, doing all of the other things that I should do, that I'm obligated to do. So I don't have time to take care of myself, or it is selfish to put myself first. I think those are the two biggest myths around self-care that we really need to bust open, because you can't pour from an empty cup. Right. And I feel like there are so many empty cups out there. And we're like, but they're like, there's dust coming out of these empty cups and we're still trying. So, you know, it's about really, really taking time to check in with yourself and just give yourself space to replenish, you know?
And that's what I like about your the analogy of the chocolate bar life. Just tell us a little bit about that title, where that sort of came from.
Yeah. When I was approaching the end of my sort of journalism career and I was so burnt out, I had a conversation with someone and I was saying how endlessly stressed and overwhelmed and frazzled I was, and I was a single mom and I was just so busy. And she said to me, you need your life to be more like a Mars bar. You need to find the balance of work, rest, and play, right? A Mars a day helps you work, rest, and play. So I should never have sung that, but I have. It's too late. It's out there now. And then I thought it was cute, and I just popped that in my pocket, and I didn't think much about it because I had a bit more of had a bit further to fall before I really started to make a change in my life. But when I started working with people in leadership and going into sort of these like corporate boardrooms and whatever, and I was talking to people about balance and balancing busy lives and busy careers, I got further into this idea of work, rest, and play, right? And I looked at the Mars bar, and a Mars bar has the nougat, the caramel, and the chocolate, right? And it all just sort of started to formulate into this philosophy. And so if we imagine that our work component of our life is the nougat, and then our rest component of life is the caramel, and our play component is the chocolate. Okay, now the nougat is the chunkiest bit, and the caramel is not very big, and the chocolate is just like, it's a tiny bit really. But when you take a bite, it's a perfect symphony, right? It tastes like it just explodes in your mouth. It's so yummy and delicious and gooey and sweet and all the good things. So when you get the balance of work, rest, and play, and they're not in equal ratios, right? That's okay.
No.
They're not in equal ratios. But when they are all present, your life can feel much sweeter to live. So when I'm talking about rest, most people, I've only ever worked with one person who doesn't have the work part down, right? Because everybody generally is really busy. I had one person that was no longer working, didn't need to work. So we needed to work on their work component, right? Work is very important for humans, right? We need to feel that sense of achievement. It's really important. Toil is important for us. But most of us have gone too far, right? So then we've got rest. Rest is not sleep, right? Sleep is a basic biological human need. Without it, we go looping, right? So rest is not sleep. I'm talking about restorative activity. And that is anything that you find fills your cup rather than depletes it. Some people love yoga, other people hate yoga. Some people like naps, some people hate naps. You know, it doesn't matter what it is. It could be sitting, reading a book quietly. It doesn't have to be hours and hours. It can just be little pops in your day. 30 seconds of breathing in between busy activities, 5 minutes of stretching in between, you know, running around. Just a couple of quiet moments for you to calm your nervous system and bring yourself back, rather than this go, 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 that constantly amps up our adrenaline and our cortisol throughout the day, right? So we're simply resetting our nervous system with these moments. And then play. Play is one of the things that adults have forgotten about. I will ask my clients, what do you do for fun? And more often than not, they will say, I play with my kids. It's not very fun, is it? Or I will hang out with my friends and we go out, eating or, have barbecues and we, drink. They're good. Okay, that's cool. But also, what do you do for you that is fun? What is just yours that is play, gets you into the flow state? Not many grown-ups have prioritized that.
No, and I think you're right. We've forgotten how to do it because for most people these days, you've had a career of some sort. You've been working most of your life. And if you're busy with that and there's not much time, you get to somewhere where you want to retire. And that's where a lot of people really feel lost because they retire and they haven't got any hobbies. They don't have anything in their life. Their work was their life, and it took up such a majority of their life that that's all they concentrated on, so that when that's gone, what do we do? And also I think as we get older, we get a bit more stuffy and we don't want to let ourselves go. We get a bit self-conscious, and you've got to be with kids. Like I get out with my grandsons and they're always wanting me to play soccer, or they think I can do whatever they do. So it'll be come on the trampoline or let's climb this tree. And I'm thinking, I'm your nan, but I'll do it. So they have this faith in me. But, if you say to me, what do you do for fun or for play? It's very hard to define sometimes. And I think people get hung up on that. What am I going to do? What am I going to do?
Yeah. I think you made a really interesting point then about, people often wait till retirement where I find so many people are waiting for the weekend, waiting for their holiday, waiting for retirement. I will be able to relax then. I will be able to focus on me then instead of incorporating. Because as you said before, we want life to feel good every day. We want to live lives that feel good. We're not meant to be on this hamster wheel waiting for an annual holiday or waiting for retirement. That's 65 if you're lucky, right? I'm 48. I don't want to have to wait another however many years, can't do the maths that quickly, for me to be able to have a spacious life that feels good to live. I want to be, while I've got good knees and my hips can still do the Zumba or whatever. I don't do Zumba, but while I've still got it, I love that you are still so active with your grandkids. I think that is such a great gift, that you have the physicality because you've taken care of your physical self throughout your life. That's awesome. Kudos to you. So play. The keys that the avenue in, what did you used to enjoy, right? Before your responsibility ate your sense of play, what did you used to do? What did you do when you were a kid? What did you explore when you were a teenager? Was it music? Were you into photography? Did you like drama? Were you really passionate about art when you were a kid? Did you like to draw? Did you like to climb trees? Did you like to make Lego? All of that sort of stuff. Find it again and see if that is it. Is it? Maybe, maybe not. Is it a grown-up version of that? Right? Is there something that is a little bit more challenging or a little bit more, requires a little bit more effort? Try that. Is there something that you wanted to do when you were a kid, but your family couldn't afford it, or there wasn't time, or there wasn't an avenue for you to do it then? Try it now, right? It's about trying these things. I love nothing more than hearing someone say, oh my gosh, I took up salsa, or I took up art classes, or I just took up pottery. And you know what? I suck. I'm so bad at it, and I'm okay with that. We are going to suck. We got to get okay with sucking, right? Nobody is going to pick something up. Yeah.
You go into something and you go, oh, I can't do that. Or, you're already putting limitations on yourself. And does it really matter if my stick figures that my grandkids can't even understand what they are? I'm doing it with them, they've got me into that because both of them especially the youngest, is very good at drawing. And so we will, before we get into playing in soccer, we'll get home from school and he'll say, come on, let's do some drawing, Nan. And he teaches me how to draw. I mean, he's only 6 years old, but it's great, you know. And then I'm thinking, oh, you know, I really should try this at home. And even if I do have to use the kids' YouTube channel for learning how to draw, you know, it's something that you can try.
We don't make time for it. We just don't make time for it. You know, it's like, it seems so frivolous to say, I'm going to sit down with a YouTube tutorial and learn how to draw a dog, right? It just seems kind of absurd. Like, what a strange way to spend your time, when in actual fact, what happens in your brain, like your brain chemistry, when you sit down and do something like that, is awesome, right? You get all of these like happy hormones, you get dopamine, you are learning how to sort of challenge yourself in new ways. It improves your critical thinking, it improves your problem solving skills. Like, play is so incredible for the brain, and yet when we feel like it's a frivolous thing to do, it's nuts. So maybe Sue, maybe what you could do is do your tutorial and then throw a picture up on social media. Oh, I love this. Yeah, hello, here's a challenge. If you cut this out, I will know.
I'm writing it down. Challenge to Sue.
Yeah.
All right. I will do that, and I will tag you in it. Yeah.
I love that so much. Thank you.
Oh, that's okay. I usually rise to a challenge, and I'm actually getting much better at not caring what I look like or what I'm doing.
Yes,
so that's good.
Absolutely. Yeah.
We're sort of getting along in our interview, but I did want to bring up a couple of things about the book. I loved the fact of each chapter. Now, it's not, what's the word it's not a stuffy read. You know, I got into that and I couldn't wait to meet you, because I thought, I love this woman. You know, she's so down to earth. She's so out there, but she's giving us some resources and tools to be able to use as well. So it's not just, oh, I've been this, that, and the other. It's, this is what I learnt from that. And I love the way at the end of each chapter you've got tasty bites and tasty points to ponder, because we can read a book and then go, yeah, okay, I've read that. But with this one, I think you could come back to any chapter at any time and work through those little tasty points to ponder. Like, for example, when have you noticed the signs of burnout in your life? Or if you are experiencing them now, what is something you can do to create some space for emotional regulation? So little tips to help you along the way, which I think is great. I did get a bit concerned that the part 1, which was sticky, icky, tricky parts of life, which I like, was a lot longer than the work, rest and play. But that just shows what we've built up in a society with all these issues that we've sort of got. But the work, rest and play, even though those chapters were a bit shorter, it made me think, oh, well, good, we can solve that part 1 and move on to making our life better. So I really, really enjoyed the way you wrote that book as well.
Thank you so much.
Now, before we go, I do have one question that I ask all of my guests, but before that, just a couple of things that I wanted to do. Are there any tips that you could give someone today, maybe just a couple of pieces of advice to start making some changes today to address the burnout feeling? I mean, the best thing is to go to someone like you who is a coach, but if someone's listening, well, when people listening today and they're thinking, oh, I'd really like to know what to do, first of all, I'd say buy the book. But then what's just a couple of your tips that you can give us to work on from today?
Absolutely. So I think taking the time to recognize the areas of your life that are making you feel that kind of stretched beyond your emotional, physical capacity, recognizing where it is. You know, if it's work and the time that you're giving to work, or your workload is too heavy, you know, what changes can you make there? Where can you make space? What communication do you need to have in order to allow yourself to be really honest about where you're at and like pare it back. If it is in, your personal life, recognizing what it is there, if it's something going on with someone in your family, a health problem, there's some kind of crisis and you can't actually just pare it back, how can you ensure that you're taking care of yourself as well as, whatever needs to be taken care of? So for me, it's often going to be about creating some white space, like moments of just you, not scrolling on your phone, not talking to anyone else, just being able to sit quietly and be for a bit, 5 minutes, 15 minutes. If you want to have, some nice music on, if you want to have a meditation on, like that's fine. But just sitting and daydreaming is okay as well. Breathing, coming back to your breath, the more stressed and stretched we are, our breath gets really shallow. So start by doing some really big, deep breaths, coming back into yourself, singing loudly, vagus nerve, it really stimulates your vagus nerve. So singing loudly, singing in the car, humming, sort of making yawning sounds, that all helps to stimulate your vagus nerve and let you know that you're okay. I think the word no is really important, and we're really bad at it. Getting good with your boundaries and learning to say no, and recognizing that it's okay to take care of you first. So, all of those things. And if all of that feels too hard right now, the one thing that I would say, so if everything feels like it's really hard, if I could come back to one thing, I would say creating pockets of time. It would be that, creating like pockets of just time to breathe.
And even if you are busy, like I'm just looking out my window now and it's a beautiful sunny day, just to take maybe a minute to just look out at the sky.
That's it.
And just take you away, because they have that thing where, every hour we're meant to stand up and do 10 squats because we're sitting for too long and it's not good for our body. Maybe just doing something similar to that in thinking about it for your mental health.
Absolutely. So standing up every day and standing up every hour, looking out the window, because if we're all on the computers, looking out the window 20 meters away, all of that is great for eye health, right? But I think as well, both of those things. So let's say we've got 1 minute, right? Stand up, have some stretches, look out the window and have a little sensory check. What can I feel? What things can I see outside, and be mindful with that, right? What can I feel on my body? How do my feet feel in my shoes? Looking out the window, what things can I see? What can I hear, right? Do that sort of 5 things mindfulness check-in. That can be done in 1 minute, right? Imagine if you did that 1 minute every hour. Everyone's got a minute, it's less time than going to the toilet, So yeah, just creating little moments and checking in with yourself. Great. I think we forget to check in with ourselves. How do I feel? How do I feel about this? How am I feeling right now? What am I feeling right now? I work with so many people who are cut off from their feelings. I don't feel anything. They're quite numb. So being able to check in with yourself.
Yeah, sometimes you're a bit fearful of checking in with your feelings and what you're feeling, what you're thinking. You don't, whatever it is, it might, you just don't want to cope with it. So you just
shut it down,
put that barrier up and shut down, as you say, become numb to everything. And well, that's just sad, but it's also not good for our health either. So,
feelings are just feelings. Feelings are just feelings, right?
And we can have all sorts of feelings because we're human, so we need to go with those feelings.
And if you shut off the bad ones and become numb, the good ones aren't as vibrant either, right? You can't choose. You shut off
that's exactly right.
You can't choose.
You're just sort of moving through life and not experiencing.
yeah, all of the
Okay, well, look,
humanness.
it's been so lovely chatting to you today. So we've
Likewise.
probably answered the question during this whole interview, but I'm going to ask you just to put it into a sentence for me. But what does being a woman living well mean to you?
I think it means having the courage to be authentic and honest and have the conversations that live in my heart, and to allow all of me to experience all of life.
Well said, well said. So, as I said, it has been a joy to have you chat with me today, Danielle. I was very excited to meet you and to, promote your book, The Chocolate Bar Life. I will be putting all the notes into the show notes so that people can find you and find the book. I think it's just recently had its launch, so congratulations on that.
Thank you. Thanks so much. I've got 4 in 4 cities, actually, so I don't do things by halves either.
Okay, so make sure you put some time for yourself. So anyway,
Absolutely. Thank you,
thanks
Sue.
so
Thank
much
you
for
so
joining
much. It's
me
been
today.
a really delicious chat. Thank you.
Okay, well, what a fun and informative chat that I had with Danielle Colley, author of The Chocolate Bar Life, Creating a Delicious Balance Between Work, Rest and Play. She's a delightful guest and has certainly lived a life full of experiences, which she's written about in her book. And one thing that I would think we could all take away from today is the 1 minute check-in, where every hour we just stand up, look out of the window, do a sensory check-in. What am I looking at? What am I hearing? What am I feeling? How is my body? And just doing things to make time for our own space. So that's all we have time for this week. I hope you've enjoyed the episode and that you will share it with a friend who no doubt will benefit from listening to Danielle as well. So that's it. I'll see you next time. And remember, until then, to live well, enjoy life, and most of all, be a woman living life your way. Bye for now.